Hello and welcome to the ninth advanced Pong Scratch tutorial. At this point we have three working levels, so the basics of the game is done and now we get to have some fun. So I'm gonna stray a little bit from what I normally do in terms of showing you step by step how to do things. I'm gonna show you a few ideas, but again, you don't really have to do any of these things that I'm showing you if you want to do your own things instead. Obviously, you're trying to get to a level 4, and what will do that for you is having unique features, but you don't have to put in the same features that I'm putting in now. So I'm not going to show you step by step how to code these things, but I'm going to show you some ideas instead. So round 2 is supposed to get more interesting, and you'll notice that one thing I did up here, I'll just magnify that a little bit, is I decided that in round 2 there's going to be a feature that when round 2 is activated, the ball is going to show for a while, wait a random amount of time between 1 and 3 seconds, and then hide and wait a random amount of time between zero point 0.1 and 1 seconds. So this is definitely going to add a new challenge. I didn't want the ball to hide for the same amount of time as it's shown. I thought that would be too difficult, but I'll just show you a sample of how this plays in my game now. Notice it's waiting till it receives player 1 wins, which is basically the start of round 2, and notice that it continues basically until it's round 3. So let's go ahead and use the cheat code to get to round 2. There's the P for points. And now we should see that the ball is going to decide, there it is, it decided to disappear for a while. And that's going to decide to disappear for a random amount of time. This is making the game definitely more interesting. So I encourage you to give that a shot if that's one of the features you'd like to add. I also decided to give the player a new feature, and I probably wouldn't give them this feature until one of the later rounds. So I'm going to the player paddle code now, and you can see I've got a forever block, and I've got this stuck to a flag, but I'd probably actually change this to when I receive player 1 wins round 2, to just give them this advantage in round 3 if I wanted to. But just to kind of show you the idea of what it looks like, this is kind of thinking of taking shots with your paddle now. Instead of just having a flat paddle, you could maybe do some angles with it. So I've got an if the right arrow key is pressed, turn the paddle 15 degrees, wait a second, and I actually think that's a little bit too long. I want to try this as a smaller amount of time, and then turn back the 15 degrees to reset it. So this is active in my entire game right now, but I would change that. I'm just going to launch the game so you can see what that would be like. So you're having a match with the computer here, and you're waiting for the ball, and you can kind of like redirect it a little bit. And you don't really need this advantage in round 1, but certainly maybe by round 3 that could be something that's useful to you. You could also think about how could the computer do that, which would be interesting. Artificial intelligence, how could it redirect the ball, and how would it know when to do that? So that's an interesting thing. And again, I could have another if statement. If the left arrow is pressed, it just turns the opposite way. Kind of makes it more like hockey that way, or air hockey or something, where you can change the direction of the impact. So that was the second thing I wanted to show you. Here's another example of a feature that you could add. Let's say in round 3, I want there to be distractions. And distraction could be moving objects. They could be multiple balls. Let's actually do that as the example. I'm going to throw in some other balls that are going to rotate around the screen. And that means the user is going to have to keep track of which one's the right ball. So I think that could be kind of an interesting feature in my game. I'm just going to go ahead and add some more balls then. So there's our ball 2. There's our third ball. And there's our fourth ball. Now I'm going to make ball 2 and 3 look different. So that one's going to be blue, and ball 3 is going to be pink. And I'm actually going to leave the fourth ball the same, so it becomes even more distracting since they won't know the difference. You can see, if you remember, this code told it to be 20% of its actual size. So that's why these ones are appearing as bigger, because they're 100% of their size. Under the code, there's a couple things we're going to want to do. Under events, when the game actually starts, if these are only going to appear in level 3, then the first thing we have to think of is getting rid of those. So we're going to make it so it's actually hidden at the start of the game. And we also probably want to set the size to the same. So set our size to, let's just find that again. There we go, set size to, I believe they're all 20%. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and use that code on the rest as well. So if I just drag that over, you'll see now that they both have the same code. And I'm going to drag this over one more time, and you can see that our ball 3. So ball 1 has all of our regular code. Ball 2 is just hidden, so is 3, so is 4, and they're set to 20%. So when we run this game, interesting thing to think about is that those balls are actually there. They're just not visible to the user. They don't impact the gameplay in any way, but they are actually there. So the next thing to think about would be like, okay, when are these balls going to appear? And you should be starting to realize that we can make them appear when certain things are broadcasted. So if we want them to show up in round 3, it's going to be when somebody wins round 2. And so when somebody wins round 2, the first thing that's going to happen, obviously, is that this is going to show up. Okay, there we go. So you could get even more creative with this, though. Instead of having them all just kind of show up at once, you could do something like this. You could go to control and you could say forever. Oops. Yeah, well, that's fine, actually. Forever if, let's go to operators. If the player 1 score is equal to 1, so when they score their first point, then you could have the ball actually show and start moving, okay? So let's actually put this in here. So you'd have the show code there. You'd have some kind of motion to it. And maybe this is going to be forever at this point too, inside the if. So think about it's going to move. We'd probably need that if on edge bounce inside of the forever. It's not going to score points. It's not going to do anything other than be a distraction. And that's if somebody has the score of 1. Now you can imagine what I would do for the other balls. I would have the same piece of code here. Make sure it's on the second ball too. And then on the second ball, I would say if the score is 2, then I would have that happen. Okay, so there's an example. Obviously, this one would be for the third. All these balls would be bouncing around. The gamer would have to keep track of which is the real ball because that's the only one that scores any points. So those are a few ideas to get you going with what you could do to spruce up this game. And again, I haven't shown you every piece of the code to make it happen. You're welcome to use those same ideas. All those ideas I showed you would improve your mark quite a bit. But if you add your own features as well or instead, then that's even better. Okay, so that one other idea to leave you with, I've seen people do a completely different mode to the game. So here, so far, this has all been single player versus the computer. Some people have added a second player mode, maybe that both people can actually kind of shoot with the paddle by having it rotate like that. Great idea if you've mastered this already. The final tutorial that I'm going to do, the last one that's coming up, number 10, is going to be talking a little bit about how to make the menu, how to activate the different modes if you have multiple modes. Maybe you want to skip to level whatever on the actual menu. Maybe you want to explain the instructions. So far, we haven't told the user anything about how to play this game. Maybe they know, maybe they don't. So a menu would really be useful for that. So thank you for watching tutorial number 9. As always, make sure to save and download. That way you won't lose your work and have to start over after all of this. Hope you're having fun customizing the game. I can't wait to see your final projects. Make sure you watch video 10 just to make sure that you're not missing anything before you hand it in. All right, see you next time. Bye-bye.